Hello, I'm Helene Blumenfeld. I'm a sculptor, was born in America. I live in England and I work in Italy. When I was a very, very little girl, I was very dreamy. I was always trying to express my dreams to my parents, to my friends, to my brother. And somehow I failed completely. Whatever words I used, they would just look at me blankly. And as I got older, I began to think, well, I just don't have the words. I can't explain what I'm dreaming. And yet, a lot of my life was about dreaming, and I wanted to express it. One day I was in a museum in Naples with my now husband. I was 18, and I saw for the first time really sculptures from early periods. And these are from the Cycladic period, which was like 3000 BC. They were so incredible. There were almost no features, and yet you looked at something and you read the whole person into it. And I suddenly realized that that was the language I was looking for, a language that was visual and that was form, because my dreams were really, in a way, about form. My husband got a job in Paris as a foreign correspondent, and he said, "What are you going to do?" I said, I am going to be a sculptor. I'm going to learn. So we bought clay, and that was the beginning. And in our kitchen, I made some small clay pieces, and it was as though I had that language. I couldn't believe I was making these pieces. They were so exciting. And that's how I began. And I've never looked back. Well, now I use all materials, but I began just using clay, and clay is my material. Clay is my material because it's direct. I feel I have direct access now to my soul, to who I am, to what I'm doing, what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. Clay is very accessible. It happens quickly. Your hands, if they're connected with who you are, communicate. So I have continued to use clay to make a model. It's my first move into a piece. So the first stage is really subconscious, putting what I'm feeling into the clay. The next stage is the really critical stage, because at that stage it's very personal and it's narrative even. It means something emotional, but it's not a work of art at all. It's the second stage when you start looking at it critically. I feel I have another eye. I begin to see how it could be better, what balance could be in it. If I take off a whole part, it could be better. Or if I lift it up. In clay, you can only have quite a thick wing coming off it. But once you have it in plaster, you can really refine it so that the light will come through it if you do it in marble. So I can work 3 or 4 months on finishing a plaster piece. Then after I finish the plaster, I judge whether that plaster is good enough to go on and do it in either bronze. Sometimes I have it cast in bronze, sometimes I'll do it directly in wood. almost in a trance. I mean, somehow being isolated in a space, I can communicate with myself. And that's something very important too, because I think we confuse originality with individuality. Everyone's looking to do something original, but I don't think there's anything original to do. We've seen so much, we know so much, but what there is individuality, taking who we are and translating that into form. And that's, I think, what I'm doing all the time. So themes over the years changed, because I began with intimacy as two people. I moved on to intimacy in the family, intimacy in small social units. And I think I'm now looking at the world and trying to see how we can relate to each other, how we seem to have connection. It's open to us, but we don't seem to have any understanding of each other. We don't seem to have that quality of intimacy. And I think during the pandemic, we learned how important touch is. We learned how important actual being with someone is. It's not just the internet. It's not just being able to communicate at a distance. We need that relationship. And the latest theme that I've worked on, I've gone through many different ones: intimacy, creativity. Each of us has a light which illuminates who we are in a way, and we don't have time or even interest in developing it, and yet it's that light which allows us to grow, and it's that light which connects us to other people. I remembered as a child, my uncle had a camp, and at that camp one evening, all the children went to a campsite. When we got there, it was almost dark, and everybody was given a candle, and one of the people there came, one of the counselors came and lit the candle. And when the first candle was lit, there was a little bit of light, but almost nothing. By the time the whole group of children were holding a candle, we were sitting in incredible light. And his message was how important it is. He didn't call it the light within, but that we each light a candle in the world. And I suddenly felt that's what these sculptures. It's very interesting to think about how one grows in terms of your own ideas. Mostly it's in taking risks in what you do. When I'm given a commission, I can't really take too many risks, because I'm responsible to the person or the group asking me to do these commissions. I think mostly when one talks about projects, they have to do with somebody asking you, or maybe one can interpret projects in a different way, as exhibitions, because in that sense, the exhibition at Salisbury Cathedral was a very important exhibition to me, because I have always felt that public art and art outside of museums and galleries is the way to affect the larger community. Most people don't go into art galleries. Sadly, most people don't go into museums, particularly if you have to pay for it. But they do go to cathedrals. And that has been, for me, one of the great opportunities. So I think one of the themes of the projects that I've been involved in has been to bring art into the streets, to get people to really understand art and have a chance to participate in it. And I think that's one of the great uncertainties and risks in being a sculptor, is that you can put everything into it. You can think that you created exactly what you wanted to, but if nobody looks at it and feels something of what you felt when you did it, you failed. So I think that public reaction is incredibly important. A philosopher who I think has been a big influence on me, rather than artists or art critics, is Joseph Campbell. And Joseph Campbell said, art is revelation. That if you come to a work of art without any preconception, and you open yourself up to feel it, to look at it, to absorb it, there will be a revelation. Art is a way of communicating, it's a way of questioning, it's a way of taking us out of where we are at the moment. It's a way of showing us something that's beyond what we experience. More than anything, it's a way of exposing us to beauty. And I think there's so little beauty in public housing and in public life today, and I think children particularly respond to this. I'm thrilled to see the way children respond to massive works of mine. I have, and not just children, but their parents and adults as well. I think that it somehow offers, art can offer a way out of the situation we find ourselves in. I suppose that for me, sculpture initially was a way of communicating the mysteries of the human soul, of appealing to people, of having a language that was beyond words. So I suppose that one of the things that's really driven me is that idea to reach people with something that's beyond the language they speak and awaken in them another language.